How's it, everyone? Welcome to another string review right here on OpenCourt. I'm Kent, and today I'm reviewing the newest string by Yonex. It's the soft version of a string that I already thought was quite soft, but they released a soft version, and that is the Yonex PolyTour Drive Soft. Let's check it out. So the original Yonex PolyTour Drive I did review on this channel. I'll leave the link to that review in the description. This is a soft version of it, which I already thought the original PolyTour Drive was quite soft. Or soft is not quite the right word. It was very springy, and I noticed it had a lot of power. I tried it in my VCore SV98 around 52 pounds. And it was really launching the ball, so I was actually surprised that they released a soft version of this string. Maybe it's supposed to be a little bit more dampened or mushy to kind of help alleviate some arm pain. We'll find out later in this playtest, but they did release this, and as of right now, the PolyTour Drive Soft only comes in one color, which is this flash yellow color. You've probably seen this on like PolyTour Pro and such. It's a pretty popular color, and it comes in 2 gauges, 125 and 130 millimeter. And just like the original PolyTour Drive, this is an 8-sided sharp string that is meant to grab the ball and produce spin. One set of this is also only $8.99, so it's very affordable considering that Yonex polys tend to be a little bit on the pricier side. And basically what I read on this string was that this is supposed to be a softer, comfortable, more powerful string, but it's also supposed to be known for its tension stability, which soft strings tend to lose tension really quickly because they stretch easier because they're more flexible and pliable. So if this retains tension for a soft string but also provides good power, that'll be a win-win, and I think a lot of players are looking for that. Alright, so I got the PolyTour Drive Soft strung up in my Yonex VCore SV98. This is the same racket that I tested the original PolyTour Drive in, so I did bump up the tension. Before I used to string at 52, which was my test tension. I have recently bumped that up to 54, but because this is a soft string, I bumped the tension up to 55. This is a 1620 pattern, and it's a slightly stiffer racket, so I do want to see if it is still comfortable. But I do want that higher tension for better control. I don't want to sacrifice that control for my aggressive game, and we'll see if it also produces some power and the tension. Tension stability is usually not a big factor for me, but I will play with this a few sessions to try and test it. So without further ado, let's get on the court and let's test out the PolyTour Drive Soft. But before that, if you guys like this content and want to see more, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. So before I start with the pros of the Yonex PolyTour Drive Soft, I'd like to mention a few things I noticed while playing with this string. First of all, this string was not as soft as I expected. In fact, I actually felt the original PolyTour Drive was a bit springier. Also, it is a rather muted string, and it reminded me a lot of PolyTour Pro. That is a very popular string, so I'm sure many players would rejoice to hear. But I've never been a fan of PolyTour Pro, so this playtest was a bit of a letdown for me personally, but this string had some good qualities. So starting with the biggest pro for me with the PolyTour Drive Soft is the control. I felt this string had very good control, and it kept my aggressive ground strokes inside the lines without any issue. It also had a very predictable launch off the string bed, and I could count on my shots dropping inside the lines. I already said this string reminded me of PolyTour Pro, but another string this was reminiscent of was the Head Hawk Touch. Both of these strings provide good control, less from intense spin potential and more from the muted and dead feel and the lower energy return off the string bed. I felt very comfortable taking big swings from the baseline, especially my return of serves. Usually I'm stepping inside the baseline to hit returns, and the PolyTour Drive Soft kept these aggressive shots inside the lines. I like strings that incentivize me to swing big, and the PolyTour Drive Soft gave me exactly that. When I was outstretched or hitting a running ground stroke, my first instinct is usually to slice, but with this string I felt more inclined to just swing out, and I was rewarded on more than one occasion. Maybe this string will play much softer and more powerful at lower tensions, but at 55 in my VCore SV98, this string had much more control than I expected. It also had a rather firm feel, which I did not expect at all, and players who are looking for something arm-friendly might be deceived from the word soft in this string's title. I was pleasantly surprised though, because I don't like soft and mushy strings. The original drive had a bit of a springy response and I had a hard time controlling the trajectory at times, but this quote-unquote softer version had a much more reliable trajectory. However, this string still isn't stiff by any means, and I would put this string in the comfortably firm category. Similar to the Luxilon AluPower Soft, the soft version does not feel much different from the original. Next pro with the Drive Soft is the tension maintenance. This is another area where this string was similar to the Luxilon AluPower. Original Alu is notorious for having a huge drop-off in tension. The AluPower Soft holds tension much better while being only a tad softer and actually firming up once the tension settles in. The PolyTour Drive Soft almost feels like a pre-stretched version of the original drive. Tension maintenance isn't really a big factor for me, but I know many players like to play with strings for months on end, and I believe the PolyTour Drive Soft will hold up well to aggressive swings. The strings have very little movement and stay straight for the life of the strings, so there isn't a noticeable drop-off in spin potential either. Another thing I liked about this string was the firm and predictable feel at net. I could punch volleys and I knew exactly where I could hit, and I never felt swinging out or being undisciplined would result in my shot flying somewhere I didn't intend. The predictable launch also meant I could swing or push through low volleys and transition volleys without worry. I typically like being able to push through low transition volleys because I have more command over where I could hit these defensive volleys. That allows me to approach the net with confidence. With mushy or springy strings, I have to take some off, and if I end up taking too much off my swing, I tend to pop up my transition volleys, so the Drive Soft provided a good middle ground between power and control. Lastly, the Drive Soft has good spin potential. It isn't as great as I would have hoped, but objectively it gets the job done, if not spectacularly. I feel the string achieves this much more through the snapback than the shaped edges. Maybe if I strung it lower, it would have slid out of position better, but I just didn't feel much string displacement compared to the original drive. But I never had any worry of my high forehand sailing long and my kick serves dive down into the corner of the service box with precision. Anyone looking for control and spin would be happy with this string. So to sum up, the power and pop on the Drive Soft were good, but what really surprised me was the level of control and the firmer than expected feel. I would encourage those looking for more comfort and power to string a bit lower than what I did. Now let's move into the cons of the PolyTour Drive Soft. First, the muted feel. This string is very dampened, which felt like a complete contrast to the original drive. The original actually had a rather crisp and lively feel, and I really liked the response. This string feels completely different, and I sometimes struggled to hit aggressive shots exactly where I wanted. I like crisp feeling strings because I have better pinpoint control on my aggressive swings. For example, I can hit a dipping topspin forehand at my opponent's feet or hit a running forehand into the corner. But with this string, I didn't feel I had the confidence to pull off such shots with precision. This string is more controlled in the sense that I could swing away and aim deep without worry of the ball sailing long. A good comparison for feel would be Babolat RPM Blast. Both strings are good for pinning opponents behind the baseline, but are not so good for hitting into corners or aiming into open gaps in the court. As most viewers of this channel know, I love crisp feeling polys, and this string unfortunately did not have the feel I covet, which is the biggest con for me. Another general con would be that this string, although it has soft written on the package, didn't feel as soft as it probably should have. I like stiff strings, so it didn't bother me, but it might bother some other people who tried the drive and thought that string was too stiff. Although I thought that string was softer and it was very springy, but I strung that at 52 pounds whereas I strung the Drive Soft at 55, so that probably contributed to the stiffer feel. But I did that in anticipation of the string being softer, so this was a surprise. Also, although this string has good spin potential and I put the spin in the pros category, I just thought I would get a bit more. I was hoping for more diving action and a higher kick from my topspin serve, but I wasn't really getting that. The control is very good, and I think I'm just nitpicking, but I thought the spin from PolyTour Fire in a thinner gauge, which is a round poly, was better than the spin I was getting from the Drive Soft, but to each their own. But that's about it when it comes to cons. I thought it was going to be softer than it actually was, which surprised me. If I were to use this string again, I definitely would string a little lower to get a bit more power and pocketing. Lastly, who is the Yonex PolyTour Drive Soft for? Well, I guess it's for players who like something muted that will keep their aggressive shots inside the lines. I think flat hitters who have arm issues will like this string because it's not so soft that it becomes a rocket launcher. Also, the tension holds up rather well, so I think those who are sensitive to tension loss but don't want something super stiff could use this string. Also, it is very affordable, so if you're not looking to break the bank and are still looking for something that will last long, the Drive Soft will check those boxes. So now let me know what you guys thought about the PolyTour Drive Soft if you've tried it. Did you guys think it was stiffer than you imagined, or was I way off base? I know strings are very subjective, so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below so other players can get a better sense of how a string plays. Thank you for watching this review of the Yonex PolyTour Drive Soft right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.